Welcome to Dying to Tell You the Caring Perspective. So I don't know if you know or if you've listened to the podcast, but Dying to Tell You is a podcast where I interview people who are coming to the end of their life, typically. And as I've worked on this project, it's become really clear that these people are teaching me a lot. And I say a lot that my patients are my greatest teachers. And so um, the other healthcare workers that I talk to agree, and everybody's got a good story about somebody that they met who was dying and something they learned from them. And so I just wanted to turn the perspective and give people the opportunity to hear from other healthcare providers who have a story to tell about what they've learned. So today we have with us Dr. Matthew Tyler, who is the How to Train Your Doctor guy. That's that's how I met you. So maybe tell folks a little about yourself, where you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thanks, Cody. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course.
I'm Matt Tyler. I am a hospice and palliative medicine physician. My background's in internal medicine. I trained in Chicago at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. And these days I wear a lot of hats. My main hat is I am a palliative care consultant primarily for hospitalized patients. So what that means is I approach your healthcare a little bit differently than another medical specialist. Most people are familiar that there's the kidney doc, there's the heart doc, there's the lung doc. As I tell my patients, I'm the quality of life doc.
Right.
And my job is to make sure that nothing that's important to you falls through the cracks in your healthcare plan, whether that's symptoms that are not being managed as good as they can be, or values or priorities that are not being built into your care plan. I'm there to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I really appreciate the content that you put on the places you put it. It's so it's nuanced and thoughtful in a way that I think sometimes the simple nature of a video or a clip gets it loses that nuance a lot of times. And I think you do a really nice job of including that and helping people understand how you think about medical decision making and end of life issues and palliative care generally. So thank you for what you do. It really resonates with me and the way that my team practices at the hospital too. So thanks for what you do.
My pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate you pointing out the difficulty of striving for nuance on social media, which feels sometimes it feels kind of stupid to think that we can achieve that on social media, of all places where nuance goes to die. But I think the thank yous. I think there are people out there who are getting bored with the sort of generic clickbaity type stuff on the internet, but it is our main forum, our main community to connect these days. And I think there is I know there's a clear hunger for genuine, authentic, nuanced content on social media, and that's what I'm kind of throwing my pebble in the water and seeing the ripple effects.
Hell yeah. I think my wife hates social media. I'm kind of neither here nor there about it, but it's just like any other tool. It's just a tool. There's no inherent good or bad. It's all about what we do with it. So I appreciate what you're doing. So, all right, Matt, you're going to tell me a story?
Sure. So this is a story that is a reflection on what we call a good death, which if you work in healthcare, what a good death is part of what we call the hidden curriculum. So for those who are not in healthcare, there's the hidden curriculum refers to the things that are not in the textbooks that you learn in medical school or healthcare training in general, but the things you learn on the job. And they're not great things, kind of the seedy underbelly of healthcare in many ways. And the good death gets at this notion of how we think people should die. And for the most part, we think people should die at home, comfortably, kind of go softly into the night, sort of thing. And I met a patient many, many years ago that pushed back on that notion, and it taught me a lot of things. We can start with the good death part, but this was a patient who was an elderly woman with congestive heart failure, was coming in and out of the hospital with heart failure exacerbations several days at a time. And it was, she was coming with increasing frequency to the point that it was very clear she did not have long to live. And I came to meet her on her last hospital stay. Because in that context, her medical team, cardiology, hospitalist team had talked to her over and over and over again about how sick she was, and how they just felt like she didn't get it. She's like, we've told her she's sick, and she won't pick hospice care. She won't just go home with hospice care. We think she's in denial. Will you, Dr. Tyler, go talk to this woman about how sick she is to make sure that she gets it? Because surely if she got it, she'd go home with hospice. I can tell this resonates with you because you're already laughing. So much. I did something radical, which is I sat down and listened to her. I asked her what she'd heard from the other doctors, and she said, "Yeah, they told me I'm super sick and near the end of my life." And I said, I think that's true. What else is going on? Tell me about the rest of your life. And what she quickly jumped to was how she lived at home with her daughter. And she was very, very scared of her dying at home and turning their shared home into, quote, the place mom died. Didn't want to do that to her daughter. Felt like that would be a failure on her part as a mother. For better for worse, that was how she saw the world and how they saw their mother-daughter dynamic. And she was going to keep coming to the hospital as many times as it took to die in the hospital. Yeah, because she knew exactly how sick she was, and she was banking on it, in fact.
Yeah.
And so we put together a plan just to kind of keep doing what we were doing to help her live as good as she could for as long as she could, and put the guardrails in place so that way when she got to the hospital the next time, we would kind of get out of the way of her congestive heart failure's kind of natural end of life process, and just let her die in the hospital. And that's what we did. As many years ago, it might have actually been the hospitalization where we said, well, look, if you're at the end of your life and you want to die comfortably here, we can kind of peel back some of these medications that we're doing that are designed to push back on the disease, and just let things unfold naturally so you can have control over where you die. And that was exactly what she wanted. She didn't knew that was an option. We ended up putting together an end-of-life care plan for her where she could die in the hospital. And she was so thankful for that. So very thankful.
So did you do that during that hospitalization when you met her?
Yes. That was that hospitalization that we kind of put that together over the days of getting to know each other.
Yeah. 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 I appreciate this story so much because you're right. Like, we get calls all the time. They don't understand how sick they are. And I'm like, well, I think they probably do, because you've been beating them over the head with it for months. But
yeah.
And I guess when I first started in palliative care, first of all, I didn't know what I was getting into. And I had this idea that we were there to kind of usher people into hospice, which I think is a lot of people's thought about what palliative care is. And one of the physicians on the team, great communicator, wonderful teacher, and she said to me, people are allowed to want to live. And and I was like, huh, yeah, I guess that's true, and the quality of somebody's life is really for them to say. And I just we have a hard time as healthcare workers, or people in general, not projecting our own thoughts and feelings about somebody's circumstance onto their situation. And Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about like how did that change the way you practice or change the way you think about that?
I think, I mean, certainly it crystallized the notion of needing to really listen to people and understand their lives and what's important to them, and just make space to even figure that out first before we go presuming how to best take care of them.
Mm.
That was one of those interactions where I was really starting to shift my mindset, kind of getting at what you were just saying about our duty to save people and kind of what we're saving them from. So I think a lot of healthcare, we have this like savior mindset where we're trying to protect people from things, save them, cure them, whatever you want to call it, from diseases. And that works really well in a lot of situations, saving people from a sudden bleed or a stroke or a heart attack. I mean, we're great. I mean, we are an amazing machine when there's an emergency and there's something to do and fix. It's incredible to see. But to our point about social media and lack of nuance, I think there is some lack of nuance in healthcare too. That there are situations, especially near the end of life, where what it means to save someone, heal someone, is takes a very different approach, one that we're really not trained to appreciate. So I've had to really shift my approach from trying to be this like lifeguard type of figure in a patient's arc, and more of a lighthouse, and kind of really just as a physician, especially help them understand their situation and what some pathways forward might be like, but not presume to know which pathway they should be on, at least right off the bat. I mean, certainly there is a point where we understand their values and what's important to them and can give thoughts and guidance based on how we understand their situation and their goals. But I've shifted more to being more of a lighthouse than a lifeguard, so to speak. And that was one of those patient cases that really helped me kind of embrace that role.
Yeah. I had actually recently a patient in the ICU. She's been in and out of the hospital a bunch recently, and came in. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what was going on. She's got heart failure and pulmonary hypertension and whatever, and she had just like similar to the patient you're talking about, keeps coming back to the hospital. Now she's in the ICU, intubated, and everybody, of course, is worried about her, right? And I talked to her daughter, and her daughter said a ton. She just wouldn't stop talking, but she described this lady who has spent her entire life struggling. She struggled as a young mother, as a single mother, as one of her daughters died. She struggled through trying to raise and provide for this family. They were homeless for a while. They have just like struggled through life, the two of them together. And for somebody like that to come in and struggle with heart failure, well, it's just one more struggle to add to the list of thousands of struggles that she's had. And so for her to struggle with this is no big deal for her. And why would she think that life would be anything other than struggle? And her identity comes from working through these struggles and pressing on through the struggles. And so for her, the value of pushing through and working really hard to live as long as possible is really important to her. And the daughter is on team mom, right? And she just wants her mom to, and she's like, I know she's very sick. She has been in the hospital 8 times in the last few months. I mean, she's very sick, but she has expressed this value and these goals, and that's what we're doing. So like, get on board or don't talk to me, basically.
Yeah. I mean, and hearing you share that story, I'm just reflecting on how we've been talking about what it means to have a good death. And I think that's obviously tied up in what we presume it means to have a good life.
Life.
And that word struggle, it is interesting how we feel like a good life ought to mean the absence of struggle, when in fact, some of our most memorable, I would dare say, best moments of life are because of struggle, and
Yeah.
in how we faced that and how we overcame it, got through it, whatever word you want to put on that. But as you said, life is struggle and overcoming that. And I don't think a good life is the absence of struggle to begin with.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I go into these situations and the medical team, the ICU team wants a different outcome than what we're getting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just keep telling them these people have developed this family system and this narrative of who they are and what their life is over 70 years.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm going to change it in 5 minutes in the room, or 30
Yeah.
minutes in the room, or even a week in the hospital. We're not going to change all that. So um, I feel like we just got to get on board and listen to what people are telling us about who they are and what's important to them. So yeah, it's fun work though.
It is. It's incredibly gratifying, and I think so many people outside the space of hospice and palliative medicine presume that it's really just like sad, hard work,
Mm.
and that it's super depressing. And yes, it is. It is hard work, but also, like, I mean, everything is hard work to an extent. And I feel incredibly empowered to have a set of skills that I can go into, like, literally the worst situations
Right.
of the worst moments of people's lives, and have something to offer to make that slightly less terrible than it is. And to have that kind of ability is just awesome. Like the full definition of the word. It's incredibly uplifting and empowering. And the most common thing I hear from my patients and their families is thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to spend more time with us than any doctor ever has in the
Mm.
past. I just yesterday in clinic, a little group of ladies toasted me with their little styrofoam cups of hospital water, and it was just like, it was so cool. It's just such a great way to end the week, and just like little moments like that you don't always see coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great work. Well, thank you for sharing the story and for sharing how you learned from your patient. Um, tell the people where to find you, what you got going
Oh,
on.
yeah. So one of the other hats I wear is, as we've alluded to, I am all over social media making videos about the various topics and conversation points within the space of hospice and palliative medicine. Primarily focused on talking directly to the folks living with a serious illness, or caring for them. And I go under the handle of How to Train Your Doctor. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, howtotrainyourdoctor.com. And really, my main mission here was to make content about hospice and palliative medicine more accessible. As if you work in this space, you'll come to find out there's a lot of gatekeeping about when doctors think you are ready, quote, ready for palliative care. And spoilers, it's a lot later than when you actually are ready for palliative care. And I wanted to build a direct conduit to people who could benefit from conversations about when to consider hospice, how to think about your code status and whether or not you should have CPR, just
Hmm.
meds for nausea, how to manage pain in different ways. I wanted people to have direct access to stuff like that because it's too important not to. So I started doing this about 2 years ago, and it's been a fun little experiment. I get to have cool conversations with folks like you, Cody, and yeah, I'd love you to come hang out. I'm mostly responsive on Instagram. Yeah, you can find most of my stuff elsewhere, but if you're hoping to actually like engage in a conversation online with me, your best bets are on Instagram. And if you do happen to find that content, find it helpful, but are looking for more one-on-one help or coaching, I do offer some one-on-one consult services as well if you need it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think there are probably a lot of people out there that may not have access to good palliative care, and being able to talk one-on-one with a palliative care physician, the value of that is high. I will tell you, like, if you are struggling with a chronic illness or something, a progressive illness or something that is terminal, and you want to have somebody that is medically knowledgeable and also thoughtful and kind, get yourself a palliative care doctor like Dr. Tyler. It really is invaluable. Yeah. So cool. Thanks. Yeah, we're done. We did it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you to Dr. Matthew Tyler for joining me on the podcast. I so appreciate your attention to the needs of your patients and to the art of nuanced, precise communication. Please follow Matt on Instagram and other social media outlets at How to Train Your Doctor. And if you're interested in learning more about Matt and his one-on-one consultation service, visit howtottrainyourdoctor.com. Thank you all for listening to Dying to Tell You, The Caring Perspective, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have more guests coming up each week with thoughtful stories of hope and learning at the end of life. Thanks again for listening. This is Dying to Tell You, The Caring Perspective.